Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. Thank you everyone that submitted questions for this week's Game of Thrones Q&A. So there are 3 more episodes left. We know the titles for the next 2 episodes. We do not know the finale title yet. I know a lot of you are asking questions about Cersei, what's going on with her. I think she's going to be pretty close to what happens to her in the books. So I tried to avoid potentially super spoilery questions. Even though they have changed a whole bunch of stuff from the books, I still think that they're sticking close to a couple really clear storylines. Most notably, what's going on to King's Landing. I think there'll be some really fun episode 8, 9, 10 moments that mirror moments that happened last season. So don't be surprised if you feel a little deja vu with certain moments that happen in King's Landing. On a question, so just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. First question, Anner asks, do you think that Stannis will sacrifice his own daughter? And if he does, what kind of power will we see? Actually, I think, if his daughter gets sacrificed, it'll be someone else. Like, it'll be his wife that sacrifices Shireen. I do think that Stannis will push on to Winterfell, and he'll be successful, like he'll make it there. But I don't think that he's going to sacrifice Shireen, because she's his only heir right now. If he gives her up, he won't have anyone to succeed him. He'd have to try to adopt Jon or someone else as his next heir. He's trying to be king, so I don't think he's going to do anything as foolish as that. But his wife, Selyse, has clearly drunk Melisandre's Kool-Aid. Remember, they had that really weird scene with Melisandre in the bathtub last season, where she told Selyse, you must bring Shireen. Melisandre's the one that's pushing for the sacrifice, so she could either try to convince Selyse to sacrifice Shireen without Stannis knowing about it, or she could just sacrifice Selyse. I think, given the option, Stannis would rather lose his wife than lose his daughter. So it could be Stannis too, like he could be forced to make the choice. If you don't sacrifice one of these 2 women, the same thing that happened at Blackwater will happen again. We need the blessing of the Red God. So if they do decide to go down that route, I think Selyse would be the one put to flame. As for what kind of magical blessing they might incur from the Red God, I think it would just be support magic. Like it would weaken the enemy troops or, weaken the battlements. It wouldn't be like a giant sinkhole opening and swallowing all the Bolton troops up or anything like that. Next question, Jason asks, what object do you think Sansa picked up when she was walking with Ramsay? It looked like a dagger, but it was hard to see. Do you think that Sansa would try to kill Ramsay? Oh, I'm hoping so much. I mean, it looked kind of like a barrel opener, something with a hook on it, or a bottle opener, something really sharp that she would just gouge someone's eye out with. I don't think she would have picked it up if she wasn't going to use it, so she's going to stab someone, maybe more than one person. Could be Miranda, could be Ramsay, could be Theon. The idea is that Sansa's going through similar things that she went to with Joffrey in season 1. Remember when he made her look at her father's head on the pike? Like Ramsay made her look at that woman who had been flayed and hung up. Very similar moment to that season 1 moment. So now maybe Sansa's going to say enough is enough and she's finally going to do something about it. Next question, Taylor asks, how do you think Tyrion will get Dany to trust him? She's been taught that the Lannisters are the worst enemies of the Targaryens. Well, I think the best thing that Tyrion could do is just tell her the truth. I've been kicked out of King's Landing. I had to flee for my life. I was going to be executed. My sister wants to kill me. That kind of stuff. He played the enemy of my enemy is my friend card. He's very smart, so hopefully he'll help her with some problem that she has, some small problem, and she'll start to trust him a little bit. She's not going to completely trust him right away. That'll be like season 6 territory. She'll trust him as much as Littlefinger and the Queen of Thorns trust each other. Next question, Marty asks, what do you think they have in store for Loras? Well, Loras is actually one of those characters who's like way off of his book plot. In the books, like where we are right now, he's way off in another part of the world. Something the High Sparrow said I think is really important. They may find the mother's mercy. So, say they were to confess their sins, they might be shown mercy. So just because they're going on trial doesn't mean they're going to get executed or sentenced to death like Tyrion was last year. And remember, he said that the church is conducting the trial. It's not going to be a jury of their peers. The idea being that Cersei or the Tyrells can't buy the jurors. Next question, Chris asks, did they arrest Cersei because she slept with Lancel, or because they also know that she's been with Jaime? Well, mostly she was arrested because of the Lancel stuff. When Littlefinger said that he had a gift for the Queen of Thorns, a beautiful young man, she was talking about Lancel, the information that Lancel had, that he had slept with Cersei. The Queen of Thorns would be able to use that as leverage to help Marjorie and Loras. Like, look here, you have my grandson and my granddaughter, but look, the queen here, much more important person, has done way worse stuff. Everyone will still go on trial, but the idea is that they have the bigger fish now, Cersei being the bigger fish. As of right now, the High Sparrow does not know that Tommen is Jaime's son. They don't know about that yet. They just know about the Lancel stuff. Next question, John asks, hey Charlie, just wondering, what do you think about the Bronn Tyene scene? I felt alarm bells ringing when she gave him the antidote. What if it's another poison? Well, I don't think it was a poison. She seemed pretty genuine when she said, I think that you're beautiful too. One of the purposes of that scene, I think, is just to imply that they're not going to be at each other's throats for the rest of the season. They'll probably find some sort of balance, but whatever Prince Durant ends up deciding to do with all of them. His big thing is he doesn't want to start a war with King's Landing, so he's not going to try and execute Jaime. That would definitely start a war. It seems like Bronn and the Sand Snakes have a certain mutual respect now. I mean, they probably don't like each other. Not all the Sand Snakes like Bronn. But I don't think they're outright enemies anymore, if they ever were to begin with. They really just kind of accidentally ran into each other because the Sand Snakes were on a mission, Jaime and Bronn were on a different mission, and they all just kind of collided. Hopefully it'll also turn into like a Tyrion-Daenerys situation too, where, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, where they find a way to work together. Next question, Maximiliano asks, do you think that it might be possible that the series is doing the opposite of the books, like Sansa going to the Wall to meet Jon Snow? No, I don't think that Sansa's going to go to the Wall to meet Jon or anything like that. I know a lot of you are asking about Pink Letter, stuff like that. If they do Pink Letter, it'd probably be at the very end of the season, and they use it as a cliffhanger. I do think Stannis will make it to Winterfell with his army, and I do think that Sansa will make it out of Winterfell, maybe with Reek, maybe by herself. But I don't think we'll get any further than that this season. Next question, Taylor asks, why do you think we saw Brienne looking at the tower in Winterfell? Brienne has to do something before the end of the season. What do you think she's going to do? Well, I think around the time Stannis starts to arrive with his army and Sansa gets ready to, stab someone with that, whatever it is, the bottle opener, I think that Brienne will make her move on Winterfell too, and they'll all kind of converge on each other. Every time Brienne has tried to help one of the Stark children, it's ended really badly for her. So I'm hoping that things go a little bit better this time, but I wouldn't be surprised if something really bad happens to Brienne when everyone converges on each other at Winterfell. Next question, Making Plays asks, since there's a way to communicate with White Walkers, do you think that someone would try to make peace with them or, speak to them in some way? So you're talking about, will Jon Snow or someone try to talk to the White Walkers? I think we'll see the White Walkers communicate openly with other people at some point. Maybe this season, hopefully this season. The White Walkers themselves have their own language. George R. R. Martin describes it as like the sound of ice cracking. So even if they do speak to people on the show, you wouldn't be able to understand what they were saying. They'd have to communicate with body language just by pointing at stuff. Most of the time though, when we've seen them on the show, they're just doing things. They're not trying to communicate with anyone. Hopefully they will not try and subtitle the White Walkers. That would be a big disappointment. I think it'd be more effective if the White Walkers spoke and it sounded like ice cracking and we were just left to guess what they said. I think that'd be much more effective. Next question, Oksana asks, what did Cersei mean when she said to Tommen, who do you think the first victim will be? Well, she was talking about starting a war with the Faith for arresting Marjorie, just saying that Marjorie would be a casualty if a battle were to start, whether the Faith killed her or peasants killed her or something else. The object of the thing that you're trying to save would be the first casualty. I think it's a nice mirror for what happened during Robert's Rebellion. Who were some of the first casualties of that? Ned's older brother and his father. When they found out that Lyanna Stark had been taken, they went to King's Landing to petition the Mad King, but the Mad King ended up executing them. Based on what Cersei said, you could extrapolate that, had Ned's father and his brother and a couple of the other lords not marched on King's Landing with force, maybe if they'd tried a more diplomatic approach, they might not have died, Lyanna Stark might not have died, and Elia of Dorne might not have been killed by the Mountain during the siege of King's Landing. That's why I love Littlefinger's comment, a couple episodes ago. How many tens of thousands had to die because Rhaegar chose your aunt? Thank you so much for submitting questions, though. These are always a ton of fun to do. So, there's a lot of speculation to how close the show is going to stay to the books. So as we, get through the next couple of episodes, I'll try to point out some changes from the books, if that's the case. There's still a couple of really spoilery things that I think are going to happen, so I'm just going to wait till they either happen or don't happen on the show. But congratulations to this week's giveaway winner, Peter Topola. You win an HBO Now subscription. Just be sure to DM me on the back end of my channel so I get your contact info. Next week's giveaway will also be another HBO Now subscription. If you guys have any special requests for bonus videos next week, just let me know in the comments. There isn't going to be any kind of break in the episodes. We're going to get episode 8 next week, so be sure to subscribe to get that. Just in case you guys haven't seen it, I did a bonus video all about the history of Maester Aemon. You can click here to watch that, and you can click here for my episode 7 video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tomorrow.